used to be a straightforward proposition. You could have a boy or you could have a girl. But now there's a third option. It's called steep civilizational decline. A handful of parents across America are deliberately keeping their children's sex hidden and instead raising so-called babies. The idea is that only the children themselves should be able to decide whether they are boys or girls without any of that pesky biological reality getting in the way. It's all very confusing, like a lot of 2018 is. So, of course, we called in our interpreter of all things progressive, our liberal Sherpa, Kathy Aru, founding publisher of Catalina Magazine. She joins us tonight. So, Kathy, goes without saying you're for this, of course.
Yep.
But doesn't this mean if you're going to raise a baby, how would you be able to change your child's diaper? Because the second you change the diaper, of course, you'd no longer be able to pretend that there was a question about whether this was a boy or girl. You would know.
Well, it's not about pretending. The parent definitely knows the gender. It's about not necessarily labeling the baby. It's about allowing the baby to decide what gender that baby wants to be when that baby can decide, which is around 4 years old. So from 0 to 4, the baby will not be labeled. The labeling theory will not apply from 0 to 4 years old. The baby will be a baby, neither a boy nor a girl. Whatever gender that baby chooses to be.
What other profound life decisions do we think people ought to be making at the age of 4? Are there any others?
Well,
you know, whether to get a tattoo, whether to get married, enlisting in the military, voting, drinking vodka, smoking Marlboro Reds. Is there anything else that we think 4-year-olds are ready to decide?
This isn't actually a profound life decision. I mean, biologically, there's nothing really going on from 0 to 4 in that area that affects a person's life. Biologically, the experts say that boys and girls, all genders are alike. The boy's brain, the male brain might be a little larger. The female's language might be a little bit more advanced.
Okay. No sexism on my show. Hold on. Whoa, slow down. No, here you're out there like boys' brains are larger. And I just want to say that kind of toxic masculinity has no place in this program. Thank you very much.
But that's all they can think of.
The bottom line is... Yeah, all they could think of, like, difference in brain size, difference in genitalia, difference in bone structure. Just minor things like... Just minor things like that. Not perhaps, like, factually. So those are not minor things. Those are definitive things.
Minor.
So, like, why would you not tell your kids about that? You know, at some point, they're going to drop trow and look down and say, wait, we look different. And you're going to be like, no, you don't. You're exactly the same. And that's lying, isn't it?
That's when the child, they say, is around 4 years old. So around 0 to 4, we're not going to say to a little female, a girl that you're a little princess, or boy, you're such a tiger. The labels are gone. You're not going to put that outside influence on a child. You're just going to be neutral. Everything's going to be neutral.
The outside influence of biological reality. So would you do this with anything else? Would you? But could we decide that we're not going to acknowledge temperature or weather or traffic? And you could just say, you know what? I don't think it's raining outside. Or you can decide whether it's raining outside. I mean, the weatherman says it is, that there's snow on the ground. Or the weather, you know what I mean? The weatherman says that it's 15 degrees out. But I'm going to... You know what I mean? Just kind of make up my own reality.
The parents who are really leading this movement.
We acknowledge biology and nature as real, right?
But the biology, the parents who came out with this, who came out in the New York Times and started this baby awareness, this gender-neutral awareness for babies, basically said, why should people be so obsessed if your baby is going to be a boy or a girl? Who cares about that area? It's actually a little human. We are bringing a little human into the world. Who cares about the genitalia? Who cares?
May I just suggest why? And this isn't just my opinion, but the opinion of every person who's ever lived going back, let's just say 10,000 years for the sake of neatness. Because men and women are completely different in key ways.
Babies?
Can we not say that anymore?
Babies are different. Babies aren't different. They're little human beings, and there's really not much of a difference between different genders. No. There is no difference. And men and women, we would say, are equal.
I'm trying to laugh so I don't cry. Kathy Aru, you can be equal but different, which they are. Great to see you.
So the media has a grand interest in turning idiot parents into a trend. Their latest trend that they like is what they're calling theybies. And of course, not rabies, theybies. What are theybies? Okay, this is that you are raising your children without gender, which is idiocy because you're supposed to teach your kids about things that make them healthy, not things that make them unhealthy. Okay, the fact is that if you're confusing your 2-year-old about gender, then you are being an idiot. Like, this is my great question about this stuff. How do you think you're helping your kid? Like, really, do you think it helps your kid not to give them any guidance at all? Would you let your kid not go to school because your kid doesn't know anything about reading? And maybe your kid is better off not reading. Maybe reading is a societal construct. And we know there are lots of bad things that come from reading, like being on Twitter. We know there are terrible things that come from education, like a certain sense of non-equality with others. You're an elitist. But now we've got parents who have decided to raise their kids without a gender designation, which, again, how does this help the kid? Nobody the hell knows. So this is from Cambridge, Massachusetts, because of course it is. Of course, the home of Harvard is the center of stupidity in the universe. They say 3-year-old twins, Zyler and Caden Sharp, scurried around the boys and girls clothing racks of a narrow consignment store filled with toys. Zyler, wearing rainbow leggings, scrutinized a pair of hot pink and purple sneakers. Caden, in a T-Rex shirt, fixated on a musical cube that flashed colorful lights. At a glance, the only discernible difference between these fraternal twins is their hair. Zyler's is brown and Caden's is blonde. Is Zyler a boy or a girl? How about Caden? That's a question their parents, Nate and Julia Sharp, say only the twins can decide. Or biology, right? Or we could alternatively look at their genitals. The Cambridge, Massachusetts couple represents a small group of parents raising babies, children being brought up without gender designation from birth. A Facebook community for these parents currently claims about 220 members across the United States. How you think this is good for your kid is beyond me. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I know a fair bit about raising kids of precisely this age. And listen, I've said on this program, when my daughter was 2 years old, you know what she really liked? Trucks and buses. Did I care? Not at all, because I don't think that it is a natural indicator of masculinity or femininity for a 2-year-old to like trucks or buses. And you know what? Now she's 4 and she only wants to wear princess dresses. It's the only thing she wants to do. You know why? Because that's what girls typically want to do. That said, my 2-year-old son, right, he also likes trucks and buses. If he started wanting to wear princess dresses, you know what I would say to him? I would say, no, that's a girl thing. That's what your sister does. You know what you do? You do fun boy things, like you play baseball. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying my daughter can't play baseball. I am saying that my son cannot wear dresses because I want my son to be secure in his own masculinity. And it turns out that being a man means accepting some of the societal constraints around manhood. Okay, now that doesn't mean when he's 18 or 20, he can't make his own decisions. That's when you're 18 or 20. But when he's 2, I get to make those decisions. And I want to inculcate in my son a feeling that he is a boy, a strong boy who's going to grow up to have manly responsibilities for taking care of women and children, manly responsibilities for defending a civilization that makes important distinctions between men and women. I think there is a good reason that the Bible says that boys should not dress as girls and girls should not dress as boys, because every society in human history has made distinctions between how males dress and females dress. And don't give me the Scottish wear kilts. That's correct. Men wear kilts and women wear dresses. Okay, every society in history has had distinctions, and those distinctions are deeply important because they inculcate different responsibilities that are indeed rooted in biology. The idea that all of gender is a construct is simply not backed by science, nor is it healthy for society or even for individuals. If there are people who are confused, then we have to figure out how to deal with that. But to inculcate the confusion as a point of politics is an evil thing to do to a child.
It's just come to my attention that the person to your right is a liar. Also, the person to your left is a liar. Also, the person sitting in your very seats is a liar. We're all liars. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you what the research says about why we're all liars, how you can become a lie spotter, and why you might want to go the extra mile and go from lie spotting to truth seeking.
In the streets, when a kosher cafe opens in Boyle Heights, neighbors want it shut down. The LAPD kept protesters back as demonstrators shouted at people at the grand opening.
And they're not just angry over gentrification, it's the owner's views that also have them riled up. KCAL 9's Dave Lopez is live in Boyle Heights with details on the controversy. Dave?
Well, standing in front of this cafe, the man who owns this is an immigrant. He has a number of companies, very successful businessman. Of his 70 employees, he told me that nearly all of them are immigrants. He also said he supports Trump and his immigration policies, and because he posted that, well, that's where all the problems started.
So what's the connection? This is what I don't understand. I'm confused. The connection between Donald Trump and a good coffee.
30 years ago, Asher Shalom immigrated from his native Israel to the United States. He told me he cried like a baby when he became a U.S. citizen. And he also said he supports Donald Trump and his immigration policies. And he can't understand why that's so wrong.
everything changed in one day.
He was all set for a grand opening of his new kosher cafe in Boyle Heights, not far from downtown Los Angeles. The Boyle Heights Chamber of Commerce had invited him to be a member. They were going to be there to help celebrate. Then he got this email from the chamber president, Jennifer Lahuda, saying that because he posted this on his Facebook page, they called it an anti-immigrant posting, he could no longer be a member of the chamber. They weren't going to show up at the grand opening. And then a group known as Defend Boyle Heights started posting on their social media what was happening, and they called for a boycott, a big boycott.
So now we have a full line of police here at Asher Cafe.
It was very scary. There was a lot of people protesting outside, wearing masks.
They really intensely protested and accosted all the visitors that came to our grand opening event.
And they threw a significant amount of feces at our windows.
Shalom says all because he expressed on social media his opinion about Trump and immigrants.
I don't think politics should get in the way of good food. I support him in that. I will come and give him my business.
This is part of what the chamber wrote to Shalom. Boyle Heights thrives because of our diverse immigrant population. The chamber will always celebrate and support this fact. We will not support anyone who chooses to conduct themselves in a hateful manner, especially towards members of our community.
Nothing true.
Shalom is a respected businessman who has been honored by both the city and the county for his generous works.
My last name is Shalom, and I love peace.
We reached out to both organizations, Defend Boyle Heights and the Chamber, and we were told very, very strongly that neither organization would go on camera to make any comments.
You said when you left after 16 years, I'm never coming back. So
I know.
What brought you back?
I meant it at the time. Well, you know, they begged me to come back. You know, they said, please come back. We need you. And, you know, I'm a sucker. When you say you need me, I go, you know.
And this is the year to be there.
This is a political year. You know, the Trumps and the Carsons are all acting crazy. So it's like, this is the year to be on a show like that. It's the, you know.
So let me ask you about some of those people, because you're into politics big time. All right, I want your take on a few of the candidates. Remember, I need this job, okay? Donald Trump.
Well, you know, Donald and I are like this. We're pals. I saw him at the Adele concert.
Are you being facetious? Or?
No,
okay,
serious.
okay.
Last week I saw him on the Adele, and I went over
on the Adele?
On the Adele concert at the Radio City Music Hall. Well, she was phenomenal, by the way. What a singer!
Yeah, she's
Oh my
great.
God, I would kill for a voice like that.
Yeah. So you see Donald
So
at the Adele
I see
concert.
Donald over there, and Steve says to me, go over and talk to Donald, my husband, because he's pushy like that. So I say to him, oh, really? He says, just go talk to him. Donald couldn't be nicer to me. Oh, it's so nice to see you,
Even
Melania.
all the stuff you guys have said about him on The View.
I haven't said anything that bad. The worst thing I ever said to him about him was that he's not the worst one. How's that? That's the worst thing I've ever said. And I agree with him on a few things.
Yeah.
He's more like a Democrat than a Republican on some issues and some not. So I went over and I spoke to him, and he's coming on. He's supposed to be coming on our show too.
Oh, fantastic. So you would vote for him?
No.
So before we get started, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clarify my goal for you, which is not to teach a game of gotcha. Lie spotters aren't those nitpicky kids, those kids in the back of the room that are shouting, gotcha, gotcha. Your eyebrow twitched. You flared your nostril. I watched that TV show, Lie to Me. I know you're lying. No. Lie spotters are armed with scientific knowledge of how to spot deception. They use it to get to the truth. And they do what mature leaders do every day. They have difficult conversations with difficult people, sometimes during very difficult times. And they start up that path by accepting a core proposition. And that proposition is the following: lying is a cooperative act. Think about it. A lie has no power whatsoever by its mere utterance. Its power emerges when someone else agrees to believe the lie.
God damn, it stinks over here. God damn, y'all look good, but y'all stink.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
What's your name?
Michelle.
Chester. I just want to thank you for all that you do. And I want to put some American respect on that ass. Okay. Yes, sir. This was built on American soil. Have a good one, y'all. Mark.
Candidate, he said, those who think we're powerless to do anything about the greenhouse effect are forgetting about the White House effect. And then he signed into law the Clean Air Act Amendment of 1990, one of the most sweeping environmental statutes ever. This president that we have now is trying to unravel everything that he did and Obama did. And if I ever become a one-issue voter, it will be about pollution and the greenhouse effect and
Could
the
we
fact
focus
that
on the president, please? I don't want to talk about Trump
Well, I
when
do
we're
for
in
a
the
second.
moment
So,
of we're honoring a great president
Excuse me a
who's
second,
passed.
please. I want to talk about
But
the
we're
difference.
honoring, but I'm not interested in your one issue.
I don't care what you're interested in. I'm talking.
Well, I don't care what you're interested in
We'll
either,
be right back.
boy. Okay?
My God.
Later, Christmas controversy.
We're going to start with speech.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
Okay, what were the telltale signs? Well, first we heard what's known as a non-contracted denial. Studies show that people who are overdetermined in their denial will resort to formal rather than informal language. We also heard distancing language, that woman. We know that liars will unconsciously distance themselves from their subject using language as their tool. Now, if Bill Clinton had said, well, to tell you the truth, or Richard Nixon's favorite, in all candor, he would have been a dead giveaway for any lie spotter that knows that qualifying language, as it's called, qualifying language like that, further discredits the subject. Now, if he had repeated the question in its entirety, or if he had peppered his account with a little too much detail, and we're all really glad he didn't do that, he would have further discredited himself.